Well, Vicky Hartzler is joining us today. She's going to step up and say a few words.
Yay, Vicky!
Thank you. This is just so exciting. I mean, you say there's going to be a ribbon cutting, and most counties, maybe in the middle of the day during the work week, you might have 10 or 20 people that could get away. But my goodness, you pull up here and half the town is here. This is so fantastic, and it's because of you guys in this room and what you're doing right here that's going to put us over the top November 2nd, and we're going to fire Pelosi.
Yay!
It is time. We deserve better than we've been getting, and it is so exciting to see the people of this district rising up and uniting and saying we are fed up, we're fired up, and we're going to do everything we can to get people out to vote on the election day so we can bring the real change, a right change to Washington, the kind of change that leaves you with some change in your pocket, and will renew the hope of the country and the great things that our country was founded on. I'm so encouraged by this election. Things are going well. We got 39 days left. 39 days, and I know everybody in this room isn't going to sleep for 39 days, right? We're going to commit ourselves to going door to door, or participating in a phone bank, or sending emails to your friends, or talking to them, because we have to get all the good Republican candidates elected November 2nd. I really believe we're going to do that. I wanted to share with you all some of the exciting things developing in our race. If you weren't aware of it, by the way, if you aren't signed up for our email, please do so we can get that information to you. But last week I was in Washington, D.C., and we'll be going again next week, but they have elevated our race, the 4th District race, to the Young Gun status. And that is is that they have watched what you all have done here, what we are doing here in the 4th. They've taken polls, they have talked to people, they have seen the amount of money that many of you were sacrificing and the fundraising we've done so far, and they say that this race is winnable, it's doable, and it's a priority for the National Republican Party. Yeah. Here in Missouri 4th that we're going to do it. And so we can do it. I know we can. They are going to be investing money to help us, which is a huge blessing. Last Monday, the DCCC, which is the Democratic Campaign Committee, came in and they bought $1 million of TV for Ike Skelton for the last 2 weeks of the campaign. Okay? Now, that's bad, it's good. Now you think about it. We know he's done polling. We know he's done at least 2 polls. Have you heard anything about the results of the polls? No. The standard protocol, if your poll is good, you link it to the meeting. Right? There has been not a word. And instead, what they have done is immediately started running attack ads on me. Have any of you seen any of those? Yeah. I'm just so glad you're here today. You can see I'm not in black and white. You can vouch for me with your friends. She's not in black and white, and she's not mean or whatever. So they've been running those attack ads for 4 weeks, and then the DCCC comes in with $1 million buy. That tells me they know he's in trouble, and it's because of you guys, all of us here, and what we're doing here. They're going to do everything they can to try to make me unacceptable. They're going to try to make this only about the military, because basically he has nothing else to talk about. Is he want to talk about jobs and how he voted for a stimulus package that guaranteed it was going to keep us at 8% unemployment. We're way over, in this district, over 10% unemployment. So no, he can't talk about jobs. He can't talk about how he's never created a job in his life. And of course, how my husband and I own a small business. We know how to create jobs. Did you know he's been on the public dole since 1957? He was first elected to county office in 1957. I wasn't even born then. He's never created a job. He doesn't. The only way he creates jobs is taking your money and your money taking your money and then giving it over here to somebody else. That's his idea of creating a job. So he doesn't have jobs to talk about. What is he going to talk about? Runaway government spending? When he supported every budget, $3.1 trillion budget last year, a third of it deficit spending. He voted to raise our debt ceiling in our country to a mere $14 trillion. So our children and grandchildren will pay it off. Now, he doesn't want to talk about reining in government spending because he hasn't done it. He doesn't want to talk about cap and trade because he was one of 4 deciding votes to pass it. He doesn't want to talk about participating in backroom deals like he did with the defense authorization bill, and where he allowed Nancy Pelosi to attach her favorite piece of legislation, the so-called hate crimes bill, to it, and use the military to pass that radical social piece of legislation. He has nothing else to talk about. Let me tell you, just to clarify, we're sending out an email today that's going to have an attachment of a handout that you can actually print off and hand out to people that explains kind of the truth about his ads. But I'm very pro-military. My dad was a U.S. Army reservist, served 6 years in there. He did his basic training at Fort Leonard Wood. So I grew up as a kid with my dad being gone on weekends and in the summers, and knowing he could be drafted, he could go to the Vietnam War at any time. And even though it's not the same as being a kid of a military active service person, I grew up with an appreciation of a little bit of the sacrifice and services of our men and women who serve in the military, and the sacrifice their families made, and the highest respect for them, and I'm honored to get to have the possibility of working for them and serving Whiteman Air Force Base, fighting for it, expanding its missions, keeping it the top-notch installation that it is now, and Fort Leonard Wood. I will do that. The vote that he was talking about in this ad and misleading was a bill that started off in the Senate. It was good. It set up a National Guard Trust Fund, very simple bill. It got over to the House, and they loaded it up with many good provisions that I supported. But they don't tell you in this ad about a very, very bad provision in this bill that was devastating for veterans, and that's why I voted no. It was a plan by Governor Carnahan to siphon off a whole bunch of the gaming fee monies that were exclusively for veterans' homes and veterans' cemeteries, and put them off to other projects. The veterans in my district were livid. When Missourians passed gaming and the riverboat gaming, they voted, partly the ad campaign was the money was going to go to education and veterans. I don't know if you remember that, okay? And the gaming fees, 100% went to the veterans. So in this bill, they're taking that money away from veterans' homes, veterans' cemeteries, and putting it elsewhere. So that's why I voted no. It was a pro-veteran vote. It was a vote for our military, and they conveniently, don't tell you that. So that's what was behind that ad. Obviously a huge distortion, and they're distorting my pro-gun record as well. I've been shooting guns since I was 8 on the farm. There couldn't be a greater gun supporter. Annie, Get Your Gun was my favorite movie growing up. Still is. I won't break into song, but anyway, I love that show. But I was and still am, very big supporter of right to carry. I believe it's our constitutional right. And I worked when I was a legislator to try to get that in law. The vote that they referred to had to do with a change of strategy where they were trying to compromise and get them to put that out for a statewide referendum rather than the legislature just passing it. I disagree with doing that for 2 reasons. One, I don't think we should put our basic rights up to a yes or no vote. No more you and I would go on election day and say, should we have freedom of religion? Let's see, yes, no. Should we have freedom of speech? Well, maybe. This was a question of should we have freedom to keep and bear arms, in my mind. You shouldn't do that. The legislature should just pass it. And secondly, I was concerned about if we did that, what would happen to that. And sure enough, it proved true. It did go to the statewide vote. Obviously, I voted for it at the polls. But you had Robin Carnahan come in and lead the statewide campaign. Of course, they were very misleading. They got everybody in St. Louis and Kansas City afraid that everybody's going to be shooting each other like Dodge City or something. Anyway, then they voted it down. You remember? And it set back our movement by many years. And it wasn't until the Republicans took over the House and the Senate that they were able to do what I was fighting for when I was in the legislature and just pass it. Governor Holden vetoed it, but remember, they overrode the veto. So thankfully in Missouri, we do now have right to carry.